All right, so we'll move right back into Jeopardy. I did want to mention this afternoon, as you guys were talking about some of the, meth and some of the other drugs. Now, this morning I was talking about the principles of cleaning as far as different type of smokes, and cigarettes and things like that. Cleaning up after illicit drug use in a house is a whole different specialized field. Because when you have units like that, depending on, especially like meth, that there's so many different chemicals and items that were used to either cook it or, when it comes out, some products that you can use to clean will actually have an adverse reaction and cause more problems or more toxicity than you had before. And last time I knew there was only 2 people in the state that actually did that. So based on what I've learned today, I'm going to research that a little bit more and find out as far as some of those meth labs and what it really kind of takes to clean those up. In our field or in my industry, what we do, there is not a lot of regulations. But what happens is we all go through a school, and it's called the IICRC. It's the Institute and Inspection of Cleaning and Restoration. And those are just standards that cleaning and restoration companies should follow. And so when you guys are looking for cleaning companies or things like that, you need professionals. That would be one accreditation that I would look for to see if they have, because then they are going to be held to the same kind of standards in industry guidelines that are being taught, as well. But we'll get right back into it. And I'm going to pick on you. And why don't you go ahead and give us one of the categories? All right, double for 600. Okay, general facts for 600. Are all smoke particles carcinogenic? Oh. No, not. Yep. So there is probably some truth to both of these, because in my mind, when we were putting the slide together, we're talking about cigarette smoke and we're talking about some of these other things. So based on that, so yes, this is kind of a tricky question. Not all smoke is carcinogenic. According to the EPA, secondhand smoke is what we're talking about, is a carcinogen based on the chemical similarities between inhaled mainstream smoke and environmental tobacco smoke. Their logic was that since inhaled tobacco smoke is a carcinogen, environmental tobacco smoke also must be. And then after a fire, there are a lot of carbon particles, VOCs, and PAH are commonly produced and reported to be carcinogenic. So I'm kind of basically talking about cigarette smoke and regular smoke here. For us, or like anyone that kind of goes into those environments, especially like after a fire, there's certain personal protective gear that you should be wearing, especially people that are in the industry, because you have that longevity or that constant, being in there. So because of the carcinogens and things like that, we want to make sure that, people are being protective when they go. What are gases which flow from a source into the air where they are smelled by the nose? Odors. That's all an odor is. Yep, or just gases. Whether pleasant or unpleasant, they are what you guys notice. They're also linked to our memory. Thinking about if you smell cookies and you remember, grandma's house or lasagna, things like that. So, and then we touched on this earlier, but there are real odors and there's psychological odors as well. From someone that, I can't shake the smell of mold. There's mold here. There's got to be mold in this place, or smoke or whatever. They are, well, essentially, yeah. I mean, anything that produces an over, they off-gas something, or something is being produced, or a byproduct, and being taken into the air in order to cause. And there's a lot of things that are odorless and colorless, as well, that are definitely harder to detect. Can ozone be used only to eliminate all smoke odors? No. Yeah, we talked about this a little bit on the panel. Ozone machines are really good for a lot of different things, but they're just overall Because they're heavier than air and what it produces, it's just not safe for people to be in that environment. So we use ozone for processing fire restoration, usually after the cleaning is done, and again, just to kind of help create this O3 and then change the molecules of the odor and just completely eliminate it. But in multi-housing, it's just not safe because that will seep out, and we don't want to cause any undue harm to other residents and things. Even though it's a little bit minor, there's just still that issue, of safety as well. And it doesn't work as a standalone is because a lot of cleaning principles are based on multi-step processes, and sometimes these processes have to be repeated more than once or twice in order to get the results that we're looking for. So ozone is just not good. There's nothing on the market that's going to be a catch-all, like if I can just magically spray some product and all of this is going to go away. It's through time, and effort and the proper steps. What produces sticky, odorous accumulation of residues on environmental surfaces that cause visible discoloration as they burn? That is correct, tobacco. In addition, the stains of all these chemicals, many are harmful long after they're stuck to the wall, and they continue to cause poor indoor air quality and breathing problems for many. What is this residue? Although non-staining, attracts dust, hair, and debris over time. Vaping or e-juice as well. And then we'll do types of smoke for 3. What are the visual byproducts of incomplete combustion? Correct. Soot and smoke particles. Yep. In our industry, there's different types of fires. We talked about protein fire, and there's natural fires, which wood products, paper products, and things like that are being burned. And then we have synthetic products or synthetic fires, which are more greasy, odory type of fires as well. And those are when plastics burn and things like that. And they're letting off, of course, all these different types of toxins and different kind of chemicals in the air as these different complex materials burn in a fire. And so that is why it just, as the theme of today has been too, it is just so important that every type of loss is looked at for what it is first, before you go on and treat it. There's a lot of similarities between the two, but you can take a synthetic fire and it's greasy and you can wipe and wipe and wipe and it just takes a really long time. And then there's other paper product type of fires that you can just wipe real quick, and then things come off. So again, it's just depending on what the complexity of what is burning. What kind of cleaning should be done before beginning the structural cleaning process? Pre-cleaning assessment, yes, yep, those are all good. Yep, just test cleaning. Just that pre-assessment and the test cleaning, because you would need to test this to see if it was going to come clean. You need to test, some textiles, some other soft goods were in the item before you can really move on. All right, so cleaning principles for 200. When cleaning up after smoke damage, it makes it easier when you know what chemicals are burning. How many chemicals are in vaping liquids and cigarettes? That was we talked about that today too. There's hundreds. So here's just some slide that we had found from a website, just basically saying that in cigarettes, there's over 4,000 chemicals, which over 40 of them are known to cause cancer. And according to this manufacturer, the e-juices, have that PG or VG or combination of both, and a food grade flavoring, water, and then nicotine. And of course, there's some other ingredients in there too that I think that this manufacturer has left out of what they are. So the vapor, again, then is easier to clean than the cigarette smoke, just based on the material makeup of what are in these products. Cleaning principles for 100. In cigarette smoking, what is the main cause of staining on walls, curtains, and appliances? Tar. Most often, we refer to cigarette staining as nicotine stains, but this is because the nicotine has the power to save everything from our teeth and fingernails. However, nicotine is definitely not the only staining agent. There's going to be hundreds of different chemicals, but the smoke lingers in the air, and all of these different chemicals work their way outward and finally land on the wall. So you're not just seeing the nicotine stain, but by all the other chemical compounds. So when they settle, they form a thick scum that is very difficult to remove. In many cases, washing walls is not sufficient and it requires that multi-step process. So we went over different types of smoke, somewhat different types of cleaning methods and things like that. But are there any specific questions that anyone has, like how to approach certain situations? I'd just kind of like to open up the rest of our time to any more specific knowledge when it comes to whether it be, you know, cost or what you can do or preventative or, you know, partnering with someone, just, you know, any kind of questions in general before we move on to Final Jeopardy. Yes. From my experience, the vaping, like the e-juice, you know, I don't know much about like Juuls or anything like that, but from what I've seen from like vaping pens or what they refer to as mods, there's a very short-lived odor that comes on that. And because it is, my understanding, because it is food grade type, you know, of a thing, that it's relative to the ambient air and doesn't tend to permeate as much, and it's, I think, to how it's delivered. You know what I mean? When it goes across the coil, it heats up to, I don't know, over 200 some degrees or whatever it is that it does, and then it just, you know, it's not a water vapor either. It's all those chemicals in there, but it just, the way those are versus the lit cigarette is just different how they permeate the structure. Yeah, and sometimes I think they're very short-lived, and sometimes, you know, if someone's a heavy vapor, I mean, I've seen going into places where there's just clouds just billowing, and I think that, you know, those are where you're going to have a little bit different than, you know, because everybody's different, it's like with smokers too, whether you're a heavy smoker or heavy vapor, you know, as well. Question?
What about grout and tobacco?
Yes.
Odor?
Yes, grout will discolor very quickly during that environment. You know, it just, as everything goes in the air and is swept through the ventilation systems and then recycled, you know, as well, things land. You know, things go in the air and then they land down, and eventually time, because of the traffic, they get ground in, and grout will get stained very easily. You know, you don't think of hard surface floors, you know, doing that, but you'd be surprised what a film, you know, they get on those too that are visible and, you know, invisible, not able to see. But the question would be, what is, or how are smoke particles measured? Okay. That is correct. Microns. And what would your guess be, smoke particles, what size of a micron would that be? Do you have any idea? Really small? Yeah, you are exactly right. So smoke particles are measured in microns. And table salt is about 100 microns. A piece of human hair is about 10 microns. And smoke particles are 0.1 microns. So they are that small. And that's why they're so challenging to clean, because they will find every airflow, every nook and cranny, you know, where you don't even know where it's at, and it will just flow and it would just go right in there. So that is why, as restorers, what we're trying to do in cleaning these environments is those multi-steps, you know, where you have the deodorization that can get in those areas where it can't be cleaned, and then also, you know, just cleaning the walls, cleaning the ceilings, and doing all that to eliminate odors. But good, I'm glad I didn't make it that difficult and someone had the answer. So I appreciate you knowing that.